Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The bond market is set for more liquidity after Bloomberg adds Indian government securities to its emerging market local currency index. The Sensex and the Nifty snap a four-day winning streak, ending a choppy session with minor cuts.
In my head, and as I said, I'm a layman in these matters, something closer to 12,000 sounds fair value, as you called it. So who knows, there might be another buyback in the near future.
Bajaj Auto's Rajiv Bajaj says 12,000 rupees could be the fair value for Bajaj Auto's stock price, advances the launch of the CNG motorcycle to next quarter, speaks out against electric vehicle subsidies, once again saying we cannot keep distorting the market. That's an exclusive. The Bitcoin rally continues. The cryptocurrency comes within striking distance of its all-time high of 68,990. Bolstered by strong showing in the spot ETF segment, Bitcoin has now gained over 50% in just the last 1 month. Traders expected to touch the $70,000 mark and beyond. The Chinese government sets an ambitious growth target of around 5% for the current calendar year, despite navigating a sputtering economy. Pledges to remove curbs on FDI in manufacturing, plans to issue ultra-long special bonds worth $138 billion to fund national strategy projects, sets a fiscal deficit target of 3%. A 31-year-old Indian citizen working in Israel is killed after a missile strike. Israel blames militant group Hezbollah for the strikes that injured 2 other Indians. Ceasefire talks continue even as Israel continues to bomb Gaza. More than 30,500 Palestinians have been killed so far, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. State Bank of India faces several questions after it asked the Supreme Court for time till the 30th of June to reveal details of those who donated electoral bonds to political parties. Association for Democratic Reforms, a petition on the case, says it will oppose SBI's plea before the Apex Court. The Supreme Court had asked SBI to reveal the donor details to the Election Commission by the 6th of March. Google has agreed to reinstate apps that were removed for billing fee violations, as Union IT and Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, after holding talks with both sides, hopes Google and startups will find a long-term resolution in the coming months. Shares of IIFL Finance hitting the 20% lower circuit after the RBI orders it to stop sanctioning and disbursing fresh gold loans. IIFL says the move relates to non-compliance on cash disbursals and some discrepancies on gold valuation, aims to resolve both issues. Former Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal and 3 other executives take Elon Musk to court over the non-payment of severance. The $128 million lawsuit claims these executives were fired without any reason after Musk took over the company. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos surpasses Elon Musk as the world's richest person for the first time in over 2 years. The net worth of Bezos at $200 billion, Musk at $198 billion. Well, before we count billions, let's talk about the day's market action. A range-bound session saw the Lal Street snapping its 4-day gaining streak. The Nifty and the Sensex ended 0.25% lower. Auto stocks did lend some support to the markets, led by Tata Motors and Bajaj Auto. So that's the Nifty for you, down by about 49 points. Tata Motors, on the back of the demerger announcement that came in, splitting its PV and its CV business, up 3.5%. The Nifty Bank closing 100+ points higher. Nifty PSU up by about 2.5% today, so outperforming the broader markets. The PSU Bank Index, which gained 2% here, and here is why. After JP Morgan, Bloomberg's index services will soon include Indian government bonds in its emerging market local currency index. Now, these will be bonds issued under the fully accessible route, or FAR bonds, and the inclusion will begin from the 31st of January 2025. Now, FAR securities allow investments by non-resident entities without having to adhere to a ceiling. Only bonds with a minimum outstanding of 1,000 crore rupees will be eligible for this inclusion. Data as of the 2024 January suggests that the index would include 34 Indian securities. Experts say this could result in inflows of around $5 billion from investors, especially passive funds. The bonds will be included with an initial weight of 10% of their full market value. The weightage will rise in a phased manner over the subsequent 10 months, hitting 100% by November 2025. Now, the Chinese government has set an ambitious growth target of around 5% for 2024, and this despite prevailing economic challenges. The target was announced by the country's premier at the annual parliamentary gathering. The IMF and the World Bank have estimated China's growth at 4.6% and 4.5% respectively. The Chinese government has also set its fiscal deficit ratio at 3% for 2024. The government has said it will issue ultra-long treasury bonds worth 1 trillion yuan to fund major projects. The cryptocurrency market has been a hotbed of activity after the U.S. market regulator approved the Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, or ETF. Bitcoin prices surging above $68,000 in early trade before cooling off just a tad. Bitcoin is now within the striking distance of that record high achieved in November of 2021. Its market capitalization also surged to $1.3 trillion. The rally in the prices of the world's largest cryptocurrency also fueled the prices of other crypto coins and tokens. Manisha is standing by with more. Manisha, what is sparking this renewed frenzy in cryptos again?
Well, a lot of factors really, but I'll start with the price move itself. And yes, in the year 2024 till time, we've seen Bitcoin prices gain up by almost 60%. And when you look at the last 12 months, we've gained up by nearly 200% for this cryptocurrency there. Well, we did see a low of around almost 19,000 in the last year. And from those kind of levels, trading at almost 69,000 on your screens there, it has been a very strong jump for this one. And not just the Bitcoin, Ethereum, which is the second largest cryptocurrency in the world in sense of trade, smart contracts, and of course scaling up as well, also has seen very strong gains. Ethereum also has gained up by 62% in this year until now, from a low of nearly 1,300 to 3,600 at this point in time. In last 12 months, the cryptocurrency has gained up by nearly 140% for this one too. If you look at the market capitalization, $1.3 trillion is what we've seen only for Bitcoin, which actually commands nearly 55% of the overall crypto space. If you look at the overall crypto market, we are almost above $2 trillion onto that one as well. So very strong institutional buying is something that clearly has been supportive. Crypto shorts seems to be getting squeezed. In last 24 hours itself, almost $120 million of short positions have gone out of the market. And not just the altcoin, but the meme coins also have been running up to the tune of 30 to 80% in the matter of just last 24 hours. So it really is a frenzy across this space. As you rightly pointed out, it has to do with the ETFs. Since the time they were allowed from 11th of January, almost $44 billion worth of funds have seen an inflow into this one, with the markets anticipating that the next 3 months could be looking at $150 billion within the ETFs itself. Now, moving forward from here, the street does anticipate the Bitcoin halving that will happen in April. Ethereum ETF spot is something that the street is also watching out for. And then it is going to be about Ethereum scaling up. That happens in the month of March. So there are various events lined up even now ahead, which the street believes can take the Bitcoin prices much higher from here.
All right, many thanks, Manisha, for joining us. The big newsmaker this evening, Rajiv Bajaj, Managing Director at Bajaj Auto, believes that 12,000 rupees could be the fair value for the company's stock. Speaking to CNBC TV 18's Parikshit Luthra ahead of the proposed share buyback, which he said has received great response, Bajaj also confirmed that the company will advance the launch of the world's first CNG bike to the next quarter. He also spoke out against subsidies on electric vehicles, saying we cannot keep distorting the market. Take a look.
By the end of this year, very early into the next financial year, we will launch the biggest Pulsar ever. So, Pulsar is really driving a lot of our performance for the last few months. I said to you that within the calendar year 25, we hope to be the first in the world to launch such a motorcycle. But today I'm going to tell you we are so encouraged by the results we've seen from the testing that we are actually able to prepone that by a whole year. So within this calendar year 24, in the very near future, I think you will see us announce the world's first CNG motorcycle. In terms of fair valuation, I mean, without taking any names, all I would say is that in my head, I have a basket of companies that I think Bajaj Auto can be compared with. In terms of its performance, in terms of its PE, in terms of its future prospects, let's say, etc. And frankly, to me, although the stock has moved up from 4,000 through 6,000 to 8,000, in my head, and as I said, I'm a layman in these matters, something closer to 12,000 sounds fair value, as you called it. So who knows, there might be another buyback in the near future. Our business plans never rest on any incentives, any subsidies from the government. I mean, we built such a large export business. We didn't do it on the back of incentives. Incentives are welcome. if they're on the table, but we didn't start exporting because there were incentives being offered, and we didn't get into the electric business. As I said, we got into this business because the consumer will want this business to exist, and not because the government wants this business to exist.
Well, that's Bajaj Auto's Managing Director, Rajiv Bajaj, and you can catch more of that exclusive interview with him at 5:30 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. right here on CNBC TV 18. Staying with auto, electric scooter maker Ather Energy has picked Nomura, JP Morgan and HSBC to help arrange its initial public offer. This as per reports. The startup has also selected local banks like JM Financial and Axis Bank for the first share sale. The IPO could take place in the second half of this year, depending on market conditions. Ather has been selecting banks for a listing that could value the firm at about $2 billion. As per Bloomberg, the company, which is backed by the likes of Flipkart's co-founders and Tiger Global, raised $128 million in its Series E round in 2022. EV charging manufacturer Execom Telesystems made a stellar debut on the bourses. The company listed at an 87% premium over the issue price of 142 rupees a share. Execom aims to raise nearly 430 crore rupees through its public issue. The issue comprises a combination of a fresh issue and an offer for sale. Shares of SpiceJet gained in trade after the airline settled a 93 crore rupee dispute with aircraft leasing firm Cross Ocean Partners. SpiceJet will acquire additional assets as a part of this settlement. This will include an airframe and an engine. The airline said it expects substantial savings as a result of this settlement. Shares of IIFL Fin hitting the 20% lower circuit after the RBI ordered it to stop sanctioning and disbursing fresh gold loans. Speaking to CNBC TV 18, IIFL founder Nirmal Jain said the move relates to non-compliance on cash disbursals and some discrepancies on gold valuation. He hopes to resolve both issues soon.
This team is more conservative, and their assessment many times can be lesser in terms of qualities and what branches and the sales-oriented people do. We have taken corrective action to make sure that the differences are minimal in terms of the assessment of gold that branches have done and that the audit team does. But in any case, we are putting in stronger systems in place to make sure that these deviations are minimal.
Well, that's Nirmal Jain of IIFL Finance. Tech giant Google has agreed to reinstate apps that were removed for billing for fee violations. That is the word in from Union IT and Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav, who said that he held meetings with both Google and the impacted startups. The minister also expressed hope that Google and startups will find a long-term resolution in the coming months. The dispute centers around Google's revised service fee structure. Earlier, Google used to charge app developers anywhere between 15% to 30% for every in-app purchase made by customers. After a wrap from India's Competition Commission, Google revised this fee to somewhere in the region of 11% to 26%. The case is now in the Supreme Court, and Google removed some of the apps from the Play Store after the Apex Court refused to provide interim relief to startups. Here's Minister Ashwini Vaishnav.
Google and startup community both have met with us. We have had very constructive discussions, and finally Google has agreed to list all the apps as on the way the status which was there on Friday morning. That status will be restored. Google has been supporting our technology development journey, and we believe that in the coming months, both startup community as well as Google would be able to come to a long-term resolution.
Well, this is going to be a space to watch closely. Now, the National Payments Corporation has called a meeting with UPI app providers today. Sources have told CNBC TV 18 the meeting has been convened to discuss how UPI players with lesser market share can grow their presence in the sector. Ritu joins us now with the details. Ritu, take us through what we know about this meeting. What's the agenda? What is this really about?
Well, Shireen, NPCI regularly meets with players in the digital payment ecosystem, but when it comes to this particular meeting, you have to see its significance in the wake of what's happening with Paytm Payments Bank and the impact because of that on Paytm, which is the third largest player by volume when it comes to UPI transactions that are processed. Now, NPCI, which operates UPI, wants to ensure that the market share dynamics, they remain stable in the UPI ecosystem, and there's no over-dependence on just a handful of players when it comes to these transactions. transactions. So if you look at the top 3 players in the ecosystem, for instance, just between PhonePe and Google Pay, that's more than 80% of the market share by volume for UPI transactions. And if you add the third player, that is Paytm, which is close to 12% market share, you're basically talking about just 3 players dominating more than 90% of the UPI market. So it is this concentration risk that NPCI seeks to address. It tried previously to impose that 30% volume cap on third-party application providers like Google Pay and PhonePe, and that deadline kept getting extended. It is now expected to come into force only starting next year. But as recently as last month as well, you had the parliamentary panel flag the dominance of foreign-owned players in the UPI space and the need for promoting more Indian players in the ecosystem. So with all of that context, today's meeting is likely to see participation from top banks, a handful of NBFCs like Aditya Birla, Bajaj Finance, representatives from Amazon Pay, even Flipkart, which recently joined the UPI bandwagon, etc. And among them, UPI players that have relatively smaller shares like your Cred, Slice, and so on will also participate. The idea is to find ways for these players to grow the UPI ecosystem and thereby expand their presence and market share as well. The 3 players which dominate the market share, which we said before, Google Pay, PhonePe, and Paytm, they are not invited to the meeting. So that should give you a sense of exactly what NPCI is trying to do here.
All right, Ritu, many thanks for joining us. We'll wait to see what emerges from that meeting. Now, 4 former Twitter executives have sued Elon Musk for over $128 million in unpaid severance. The lawsuit that's been filed in San Francisco also includes the former CEO Parag Agarwal. The suit has alleged that the former executives were fired by Musk without cause. They've also claimed that Musk falsely accused them of misconduct and he owed them 1 year's salary and stock options. This comes after Musk acquired Twitter, which is now, of course, X, in October of 2022 for $44 billion. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos has pipped Elon Musk to become the world's richest man. He's back on top of the Bloomberg Billionaires index for the first time in over 2 years. As per Bloomberg, Bezos' net worth is now a whopping $200 billion, while Musk is at $198 billion, and LVMH chief Bernard Arnault was at $197 billion. Musk, Bezos, and Arnault have rotated places in the last few years in this ranking. This comes after Bezos sold over $8.5 billion worth of Amazon stock in recent weeks. We will head into a break, but up next, State Bank of India faces several questions after it asked the Supreme Court for time till the 30th of June to reveal details of those who donated electoral bonds to political parties. That and more when we get back. State Bank of India has asked the Supreme Court for more time till the 30th of June to reveal details of those who donated to electoral bonds, via electoral bonds to political parties. Now, the Association for Democratic Reforms, one of the petitioners in this case, is set to oppose SBI's plea. Remember, just last month, the Supreme Court had ruled that the electoral bond scheme was unconstitutional. It had struck it down. The court had given SBI time till the 6th of March to disclose details to the Election Commission. Ashmit joins us now to take us through where things stand. Ashmit, SBI seeks an extension 2 days ahead of that 21-day deadline, which is coming to an end. It raises several questions. Take us through what we need to focus on and what is SBI's response on why it cannot comply.
In the electoral bonds case, the Supreme Court judgment upheld the voters' right to know donor details. But there's a new twist. The SBI is asking for an extension till June 30th to furnish these details, which would mean that effectively voters will not have access to donor details till after the Lok Sabha elections. SBI's plea has left many on social media saying, "Look, I told you so." So naturally, we take a look at some of these questions now facing SBI. Number one, the Supreme Court judgment was pronounced on February 15th. The Supreme Court had directed the SBI to furnish the electoral bond details to the Election Commission by March 6th. The SBI had 3 weeks or 21 days to furnish this data. The SBI has now cited logistical issues in reconciling and sharing this data with the Election Commission. The question being asked is, why did the SBI wait till the 19th day of the 21-day Supreme Court deadline to express this concern? Another question, does it leave no room for the Supreme Court to maneuver? Number two, paragraph 13 of the SBI application claims that KYC details are stored physically. The SBI claims that this was done to ensure that data cannot be gathered easily to ensure anonymity. Question being asked is, was anonymity not possible with digital records? Digital KYC records are maintained securely by SBI for 48 crore customers. So why no digital KYC records for 22,000 bonds? Number 3. Paragraph 10 of the SBI application says that donor details are kept in sealed covers and are transferred to the main branch in Mumbai. Paragraph 11 submits that even at the time when political parties are encashing these bonds, the original bond and the pay-in slip are kept in sealed covers, and this sealed cover again is sent back to the main branch in Mumbai. Question: if all the documents are in Mumbai, why does the SBI need more than 4 months for reconciling the donor information? And number 4, based on activist Commodore Lokesh Batra's RTI application, a 2018 Finance Ministry file noting had come to light. This file noting revealed that the SBI had asked for labeling each electoral bond with a unique serial number to create an audit trail. As per the file noting, SBI had claimed that in case of information being sought by law enforcement agencies, such a serial number will allow for sourcing of data about where the bond was issued, to whom it was issued, and which account it was encashed into. Importantly, the Finance Ministry had allowed for such unique serial numbers. The obvious question is, if electoral bonds are traceable with this serial number, why the ask by SBI for time till June 30th? The Supreme Court prescribed deadline for Supreme Court runs out tomorrow, that's March 6th, and that gives rise to perhaps the most important question. After upholding the voters' right to know, will the Supreme Court allow the extension, or will it stay firm on disclosure before the Lok Sabha elections?
Well, we will have to see what the Supreme Court does do in this matter. Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. International news: a 31-year-old Indian national working in Israel has been killed after a missile attack. The Israeli government has blamed Lebanon-backed Hezbollah for the strikes. The attack also injured 2 Indians. Israel said the attack took place near a plantation around 11 a.m. on Monday. And speaking of the Israel-Hamas war, Israel continues to pound Gaza even as ceasefire talks continue. Reports suggest that Israeli forces fired on a crowd of Palestinians awaiting aid distribution in Gaza City. This is the second such attack since Monday. According to Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, more than 30,500 Palestinians have been killed so far. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that Trump can remain on the Republican primary ballot in Colorado. The apex court ruled that states cannot invoke a post-Civil War constitutional provision to keep presidential candidates from appearing on ballots. The ruling also puts an end to similar challenges in other states like Maine and Illinois. Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of Business 360. More news will continue right after this break. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. There's a lot more coming up.